Have you ever had a dream that when you wake up, you're not sure if you're dreaming or if you're sleeping? You wake up and it seems so real that you're not sure if you're really dreaming, if you're even sleeping. Have you ever had that dreams? When I was working at the hospital on night shift, one morning I was driving home and I was very tired that morning. And I was driving, and after it was about half an hour driving. After driving about 20 minutes, my eyes was closing, and I was falling asleep driving. And I found that it was not safe to continue driving. I should stop. So I saw a YMCA on the corner, and I said, well, I'm just going to stop in the parking lot of that YMCA, and I'm going to take a nap. So I pulled over in the parking lot, and it was cold. I remember it was the winter time, it was full of snow outside. So I pulled the emergency brakes, and I left the car running. I put the seat back a little bit, and in seconds, I was gone. I was sleeping. And as I fell asleep, I had a dream. And I dreamed that I was driving, and that I fell asleep while I was driving. And I woke up very fast, and my heart was pounding, and I jumped and I grabbed the wheel so fast, and I stepped on the brakes when I realized that I was stopped right there in the parking lot. My heart was pounding, and I definitely fell awake at that point. But it seemed so real, that I couldn't help myself. I just jumped and grabbed the wheels. That's the first thing I did, and he stepped on the brakes. Amazing. It was truly feeling that was real. But what is real? According to the dictionary, real means authentic. Authentic. You like things authentic, don't you? Usually you want to make sure that you buy authentic things. You don't like fake things and false things, because then it doesn't last long. A couple weeks ago, I went with my wife to the bank to get our signature notarized to get the passport for Emily. And the reason we had to go is because the notarizer wanted to make sure that our signature was authentic. That nobody was faking our signature, falsifying our signature. Authentic. Genuine. You always want something genuine. You always notice something when it's not genuine. Bona fide. That's another term for it. Real. Reality. How about do we know, how do we know the Bible is authentic? How do we know this book was written and inspired by God? And I want to invite you to read the book of Revelation, chapter 1. I'm going to step down here if you don't mind. Book of Revelation, chapter 1. Verse 1. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1. It says here, the revelation of whom? Jesus Christ. The revelation of Jesus Christ. So how can it be more authentic than that? The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servant what must take place, and he made it known by sending his angel to his servant John. So, Jesus is the author of this book. He gave the message to be written in this book. So, it's authentic. It's genuine. It's bona fide. It's something that we can trust. And it goes on in verse 3, and it says, blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of the prophecy, and blessed are those who hear and keep what is written on this book, because the time is near. But you see, Why is that someone who reads the book of this prophecy blessed? Why is that we blessed? It's blessed, friends, because if we keep the words of this prophecy, we are not going to be lost. And that's a blessing, isn't it? We're not going to be lost. We know exactly what's going to happen. We know exactly where we are going. In the Bible, God is so good, so loving to us, that He tells us exactly what happened, what is happening, and what's going to happen. He wants us to know that, because He doesn't want anybody to say, oh, Lord, I didn't know. You had the Bible, you were taught about it. But this morning, I don't want to go through the whole book of Revelation. We'll spend days here on the book of Revelation. I want to go through with you this morning just in one part of the book of Revelation. You know, when Jesus gave the message to the angel gave to John, the instruction to John was to write one letter to each church, which was 7 letters, 7 churches. And let me tell you, those churches are not fake churches. We're not symbol churches. Those are real churches. And those churches that John wrote the letters, they were real and they had real problems. Not all of them, but some of them had real problems. And John was sent to send a letter to those churches. Those letters were letters of exhortations or letters of encouragement. And I want to just focus today on a letter that was written to the church of Sardis on chapter 3 of Revelation. And on chapter 3 of Revelation, we have here the letter that John wrote to the church of Sardis. You see, confidence is something good, isn't it? But having no confidence can be as bad as it is having too much confidence. We all need confidence in life to strive to do things in life. We need confidence. But if you have too much confidence, it's as bad as you don't have any. You see, you're studying for an exam. Those who have been in the school probably know that. You're studying for an exam, and then you just like, oh, I already know everything, or I'm not studying anymore. And you just stop studying. You assume that you are confident that you know already everything. And you stop studying. And perhaps you don't even know enough, but you are confident that you already know. And that can be bad. But yes, also there are those that have no confidence at all. First of all, I'm not even going to study because I know I'm not going to pass anyway. No confidence. Both can be very bad. And that's the problem that was happening in the church of Sardis. They had too much confidence. And here on verse 2, it says, verse 1 it says, and the angels of the church of Sardis write these, the words of him who has the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. I know your works. I know your works. Let's stop right there for a minute. I know your works. Why? How? How God knows our works. How God knows what we are doing. How God knows the works that was happening there in that church. Many people have the feeling, I have the idea that when they are between 4 walls, nobody can see them, they can talk whatever they want, they can say whatever they want, they can do whatever they want, and nobody's seeing them. I had someone that used to say that sometimes we look outside, but we don't look up. God can't see. God knows everything about us, everything that we do, where we go, everything He does. Everything we do, He knows. Even the deepest secrets of our heart, God knows. So it's very important to keep that in mind before we have some ideas to go on and do certain things that you shouldn't be doing. Because God knows. And He says here, I know your works. And He goes on and He says, you have the name of being alive, but you are dead. That's sad, isn't it? When I was in Brazil, I used to work in 2 jobs. One of the jobs was in the ICU in the hospital, and the other job was taking care of a patient in his house. That was the nursing home in Brazil. It's not nursing home in Brazil. It's not that we have a building full of people here like we do here. Nursing home there, the patient stays in his house with his family, and they have 24/7 nursing. So I would stay there for 12 hours, and if I needed a nurse, I would call the nurse would come. If I needed a doctor, I would call the doctor would come. And I would leave when someone else would come and release me. If we had a cold, if we have any emergency, we would take care of it. We were trained for that. And I was there, I had a patient that I would work in the hospital, and I would go to his house after. I used to do 24 hours straight and then rest 24. And that patient, most of the times when I arrived to his house, he was sleeping because it was too early when I got out of the hospital. And around 9 o'clock, he would wake up. I would sit him up to give him breakfast. But that patient didn't eat by his mouth. He had a feeding tube. The patient would open his eyes. He would look at me, but he couldn't speak. His voice was gone. He couldn't move any of his limbs. And he would look at me. And I would ask him a question, and he wouldn't answer. I asked him to blink, and he wouldn't blink. He looked very alive, but he was dead. There was nothing there. He was very alive. He looked at me. He would blink, and he would look at me, but he wouldn't even smile. He looked alive, but he was dead. And here, friends, it says, you have the name for being alive, but you are dead. In other words, Jesus is saying here, friends, you are in coma. Have you seen a patient in coma? They hear you, but they don't have any reaction. And how many times we listen to the words and we read the Bible and we listen to sermons and more sermons and Sabbath school lesson, and it goes right up over our heads. We don't have any reaction to it. You seem alive. You look alive. You act like you're alive, but you're dead. That's sad. And did Jesus continue in verse 2, and he said, wake up. Wake up. It's time to wake up. There was a certain monk, very religious monk. I don't know if he was religious as Martin Luther was, but he was a very religious monk. But at a certain point of his life, he decided that he would sit there outside the temple, sitting there all day, just sitting there, meditating. And he would sit there for weeks. And one day the priest came to talk to him, and he sat beside him, and he picked up a brick and a stone, and he started rubbing together right beside him, and made that weird noise. And for a while, that monk tolerated, but then after a while, it started becoming irritating. And then he said, what are you doing? And the priest said, I'm trying to make glass. He said, you know you can't make glass rubbing a stone and a brick. And he said, I know. Neither you can be a Christian just sitting here. You can't sit here and do nothing. In order to be a Christian, you have to do something. You have to move. And here, friends, the word of Jesus telling us, wake up, strengthen what remains in one of the point of death. For I have not found your works perfect in the sight of God. Strengthen what's left from you. Because I haven't found your work haven't found anything on you that I can use. Wake up! God has been watching us, friends, on everything we do. And sometimes, I even come to my wife sometimes that God made me look at us and say, and Jesus said that, will I find faith in the world when I come back? The message to the church of Sardis, friends, is the same message for us today. It's not any different. Because the problems that we're having in Sardis is the same problem that is happening in the church today. Not just here in Leamington, but everywhere, every church you go. It's the same problem. You see people over and over again listen to message over message, and they don't change. They continue the same old ways. They don't do anything. And continue reading here in verse 4. John writes what the angel told him to write. That not everyone that is really that way. It says, it's not, yet you have still a few persons in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes. They will walk with me, dressed in white, for they are worthy. There are not everybody in the church that is like that. Some have been dressed in white. Some have been doing what they're supposed to do. And verse 5 it says, if you conquer, you will be clothed like them, white robes, and I will not blot your name out of the book of life. I will confess your name before my Father and before his angels. It's a promise, friends. It's a promise. We just have to do what's written here. Wake up. Remember the time when you were first baptized. Remember the time when you accepted the truth. How excited you were. We're standing there with those robes when the pastor was there reading the votes for baptism for you, and you accepted, you say yes, and you're excited about it. Everybody taking pictures. Remember that time. And strengthen your limbs, strengthen your body, what's left out of it. And do what Jesus wants you to do. Certain pastor, he was pastor in church for quite a while. And after a while, he noticed that all his sermons that he was preaching to the congregation seems like was no reaction to the congregation. Nobody was doing anything. They keep doing the same thing, and it seems like the sermon was going right above their heads. And he reviewed his sermons, the way he was preaching, the way he was delivering the sermon. He started reviewing everything, the message that was spoken, and he said, I don't see anything that I'm doing wrong. What else can I do? And one day of worship, he walked to the pulpit and he got a basin with water, a towel, shaving cream, and a razor. And he stood there at the pulpit, he put the basin right in the pulpit, and right there he put shaving cream in his face and he started shaving. And he shaved his whole face, and he washed his face there in the basin, and he cleaned it up with the towel, and he got up, picked up the basin, and left. And that was it. He didn't say a word. The whole week, everyone was talking about it. People called each other for, hey, listen, did you see what the pastor did? I can't believe he did that. And everyone wants to know what that meant. And they spoke to all the neighborhood. The next day of worship, the church was packed. Was people standing all around the church, and there was no seat for everybody. They were packed. They want to know what the pastor did meant. And they were anxious to listen what the pastor had to say. And the pastor came to the pulpit, he said, I bet you want to know what happened here last day of worship. And everybody was anxious. And he said, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. But I noticed that I have been preaching over and over and over again here in this church. And it seems like my sermons have no effect on you. It seems like every word that I speak, it goes right above your head. It seems like nothing can touch you. But last week, when I came here and I shaved myself in the pulpit, everybody now wants to know. Everybody came to church. Everybody is interested to know what happened. It doesn't mean anything. But what I want to see is that everyone would call each other and tell them about the message that you hear today. Call each other and talk about the message that you hear the pastor speaking. Tell your neighbors about the message that pastor spoke. Tell them, unless if seeing me shaving, it's more important than the message that I preach. Sometimes, friends, things that happen, it's more important for us than the message that God gave us. It's time to wake up. There's no time to waste anymore, friends. Like Paul said, we are living at the end of times. If you pick up the book of Revelation and you see the seven seals, what happened in the seven seals, we are living in the sixth seal. We are living in a time of end. If you pick up the book of Daniel, when Daniel wrote the book of Daniel, God told him, said, Daniel, shut up the words and seal until the time of the end. But when Jesus gave the message to John, he said, John, do not seal the words because the time is at hand. Amen. We see everything happen in the world today and we treat like this is happening naturally. That is normal. There is nothing normal about that, friends. Jesus is coming soon. It's not time to sleep. It's not time to waste. This morning, I want to invite you to recommit yourself to Jesus and say, Jesus, I want to wake up. I want to do more for you. I want to preach the gospel. I want to do whatever it takes, Lord, to share your gospel to other people that still don't know you. I want to preach the gospel to myself. I want to live the gospel. Commit yourself this morning and tell Jesus, and He will help you. He'll help you. There's no time to pretend to be a Christian. It's time to be an authentic Christian.
Amen.
A genuine Christian. The ones that everyone, wherever you go, will notice that you are a Christian. I used to work at Kettering Hospital at some point before I went to the seminary. And after 2 years working there, I found out that one of those nurses that was working with me every day, she was Seventh-day Adventist. After 2 years. Most people that was working with me were not Seventh-day Adventists. She was. I didn't even know. I didn't notice. She knew I was Seventh-day Adventist. Because I never hid that from anybody. But I didn't know she was. Let people know who you are. Live your life that people will see Jesus in you. And I want to invite you this morning, friends, if you want to recommit yourself to wake up and do something on your spiritual life and prepare for your coming of Jesus and help others to prepare for your coming of Jesus, I want to invite you to stand. I want to pray with you. I want to pray with you because the Holy Spirit is willing to help you with whatever you need. Any of you who want to recommit yourself to Christ this morning, I want to invite you to stand. I want to pray with you. Lord Jesus, you see your church standing this morning. Because, Lord, your church recognizes that your time is coming very, very near. We are living in the time of the end. We are living in the time that you're about to stand and say it's done. And those who are wicked be wicked still. Those who are righteous be righteous still. And Lord, we need to do something about it. And your church is willing to recommit themselves to you and do something about it. And I ask you, Lord, that your Holy Spirit help them and help me. Because, Lord, we can't do this alone. We can't possibly do this alone. Help us, Lord, that this commitment that we do this morning cannot be just here, but can be every day when we get up in the morning and we ask you, Lord, help me to be alive, to be a alive Christian, to be showing others that you live in me, and they can see you in my life. Prepare us, Lord, for your kingdom. I pray in your holy name. Amen. God bless you.